Last night, Elon Musk, unelected, unconfirmed, unvetted, unsworn in, held a press conference in the Oval Office while alleged president of the United States, Donald Trump, looked on. Let's take a look.
To that remarkable scene at the White House just a short time ago, Elon Musk standing in the Oval Office, President Trump sitting behind the Resolute desk, and it was Elon Musk who held court for more than a half an hour. How Musk describes what it is the Trump White House is doing, defending his access to at least 15 government agencies and counting.
An extraordinary scene playing out in the Oval Office. President Trump sitting at the Resolute desk, and standing next to him, Elon Musk and his young son, holding court for roughly a half an hour.
Your detractors, Mr. Musk,
What?
including a lot of Democrats.
I have detractors?
You do, sir.
I don't believe it.
Say that you're orchestrating a hostile takeover of government and doing it in a non-transparent way. What's your response to that criticism?
Well, first of all, you couldn't ask for a stronger mandate from the public.
Musk, the world's richest man with billions of dollars in federal contracts, has been given enormous power. His Department of Government Efficiency already accessing at least 15 agencies.
First of all, Musk is explaining what's going on because Donald doesn't know. Secondly, he's wearing a MAGA hat, which violates the Hatch Act. Yeah, the least of our problems. Anyway, MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell, who's been on it, called this the most powerless image of a U.S. president ever. And he would know. In that moment, Elon Musk was doing everything he could to show the world, without saying anything directly, that Donald does not control him. Donald may be in charge, at least theoretically, of the other adults in the shot, the Nazi, Stephen Miller, and people like Will Schaff, but he is not in control of Elon Musk. O'Donnell pointed out that Musk spoke 3,666 words to Donald's 2,487. I don't know if we should make that word count so high for Donald, considering like he probably said the word billions 47 times and unfair a few dozen. I don't know. He repeats himself a lot. And the whole time, Musk was standing over Donald while Donald was sitting behind our Resolute desk. Musk suggested that Donald has always craved the attention of the quote unquote truly rich, and now he has it because that's why you become president, right? The press conference centered on claims of billions in government waste and fraud, yet neither Musk nor Donald provided any actual proof. Why did they not provide proof? Because they don't have any. Also, apparently they don't need any. But to Musk's claim that this is a mandate from the public, that's a lie. I'm pretty sure even the most despicable of Donald's supporters did not vote for this. Why? Because it wasn't a campaign issue. Pretty sure they were voting for Donald, not Elon Musk. I'm not pretty sure. I'm certain of that because Musk wasn't on any ballots. Also, just in terms of the optics here, they matter, and this is why. When I was a kid, my grandfather had a tactic. Whether he was at his office or we were at my grandparents' house, if he wanted to demonstrate his power, he would sit down and have you stand up in front of him, even if he was sitting on the couch. This is different because Donald has done that in the past. You know, sitting behind the desk, sitting in a chair, while whether it's world leaders or Democrats or whomever have to stand in front of him. Musk was not standing in front of Donald. He was standing next to him and behind him. And that actually matters because that's a power play. Before we dive into more of this, please take a second to like and share this video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. And after you subscribe, click on the bell. That way you will be sure to be alerted every time new videos drop. So Elon is placing himself in this scenario as the dominant figure controlling events, while his 4-year-old son, who seems to be like his travel companion everywhere he goes, roamed the room, interrupting everyone, acting like the toddler he is, and actually seeming more mature than Donald is. Donald himself appeared passive and gave the perception that Musk wields significant influence over his administration because he does. While, of course, an embarrassing map that has renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America stood in the background. So Elon dismissed concerns over his extensive business dealings with government while leading the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Even as his companies benefit from billions in federal contracts, of course, he would dismiss concerns because he is trying to eradicate any ability for any agencies to exercise control over him and therefore make said conflicts disappear. Despite claiming, quote, transparency builds trust, unquote, Musk is not required to file a public financial disclosure, which shields his personal financial ties to federal contracts from scrutiny. Musk was asked about his potential conflicts of interest, and you may find his answer interesting. Watch this clip.
Mr. Musk, the White House says that you will identify and excuse yourself from any conflicts of interest that you may have. Does that mean that you are, in effect, policing yourself? What are the checks and balances that are in place to ensure that there is accountability and transparency?
No. Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the Doge handle on X and to the Doge website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent. In fact, I don't think there's been, I don't know of a case where an organization has been more transparent than the Doge organization.
You pathetic sociopath. It isn't transparency when you post shit to a handle on a platform you own or on a website for an agency that is illegal, unconstitutional, and unconfirmed. There's no transparency here. Honestly, it is literally like Donald putting Kash Patel in charge of the FBI and expecting that Donald will ever be held accountable for any, well, what am I saying? Merrick Garland sucked too. All right. So when he was pressed, Musk said, just to clarify, I know Merrick Garland was not the head of the FBI. My apologies. But Pam Bondi isn't going to do anything to hold Donald accountable either. My point being that they had a running head start thanks to the incredible fecklessness of the completely useless and much unlamented Merrick Garland. All right. So when pressed on the matter of transparency, etc., Musk said, we should just trust him. If you see something, say something. Check this out.
But if there is a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself, for instance, you've received billions of dollars in federal contracts when it comes to the Pentagon, for instance, which the president I know has directed you to look into.
Yeah.
Are you policing yourself in that? Is there any sort of accountability check and balance in place that would provide any transparency for the American people?
Well, all of our actions are fully public. So if you see anything, you say like, wait a second, hey, Elon, that seems like maybe that's, there's a conflict there. It's not like people are going to be shy about saying that. They'll say it immediately.
Including you yourself.
Yes, but transparency is what builds trust, not simply somebody asserting trust. So not somebody saying they're trustworthy, but transparency, so you can see everything that's going on. And then you can see, am I doing something that benefits one of my companies or not? It's totally obvious.
Hey, Elon, listen, I'm seeing a lot of conflicts of interest here. I'm seeing that you are using an extra legal, extra constitutional, unauthorized agency to enrich yourself and your cronies, like, what's his name? Donald. Where do I send my report? I have no doubt in my mind you are going to get right on that. Just in case you need a reminder, let's hear Musk explain that the whole concept of you get what you vote for. And remember, this guy is supposed to be a genius. He's not. Take a look.
The people voted for major government reform. There should be no doubt about that. That was on the campaign. The president spoke about that at every rally. The people voted for major government reform, and that's what the people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for. And a lot of times, people that don't get what they voted for, but in this presidency, they are going to get what they voted for. And that's what democracy is all about.
Aw, look at Donald just sitting there like a bored bored child. Did they not have crayons? You know, they coulda got one of those, like, paper maps that you get at, I don't know, like, Denny's or something? IHOP? Anyway, all that's a lie. Nobody voted for this because, again, this was not on the campaign trail. Nobody on the campaign trail said, "Hey, the government, will be reformed by, an unaccountable, unhinged, unrestrained, maniacal oligarch." At least I don't remember that being the case. Also, what I remember, first, let's just take a step back. Donald was in office for 4 years, Biden was in office for 4 years. Like, how much could have changed in 4 years, right? So we're talking about massively sweeping changes to the federal government that were on nobody's radar whatsoever. What I remember from this benighted election is that there were a not insignificant minority of people voting for fascism because, and then a bunch of other ill-informed, ignorant people who also are totally cool with racism, misogyny, anti-Islamic, and anti-immigrant hatred, voting because inflation was too high, gas prices were too high, and the price of eggs were too high. Funny story for another time. So everything that's happening right now is completely outside the bounds of anything anybody might have anticipated. Musk admitted that he lied about the whole insane story about the government spending $50 million to send condoms to Hamas that were then used to make bombs. Like, that was everywhere in the right-wing media disinformation ecosphere. And he said that the misinformation, disinformation, was due to his being incorrect and that there are going to be mistakes. Watch this.
Mr. Musk, you said on X that an example of the fraud that you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact-check this, it apparently Gaza in Mozambique, and the program was to protect them against HIV. So can you correct the statements? It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there.
Yeah.
And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes.
Donald never makes any mistakes. And hey, kid, I feel your pain. That's how I feel watching Elon Musk take over the Oval Office and the federal government. Going to play a clip that is Musk explaining his take on Social Security, which, by the way, is something none of us should have to care about. Take a look.
There's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't know. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. So, that's a case where, I think they're probably dead. It's my guess. Or they should be very famous, one of the two.
Oh, you are so viciously stupid. Yeah, that's like the whole voter fraud bullshit. Like, I think 1 in a billion votes cast are cast fraudulently in this country. The same thing. I mean, is there a possibility that a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage, I mean, 0.000 whatever percent of people mistakenly get a Social Security check? Maybe. But to use that bullshit excuse as a basis for dismantling one of the most important initiatives in modern American history is a bit beyond the pale. And Musk, who clearly fits into the Trump regime, well, this is one reason he fits in, because he has absolutely no self-awareness, clearly missed the irony when he talked about an unelected bureaucracy when he's the unelected bureaucrat. One of the reasons Musk fits in so well with the Trump regime is because he has absolutely no sense of self-awareness. And he clearly missed the irony when he went off about unelected bureaucrats, considering He's kind of the poster child for those.
If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy, we live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the President, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large, unelected bureaucracy.
First of all, let that child go out onto the playground, for God's sakes. And Donald, take Musk's kid with you too. It's too much to ask to have them sit there throughout all this. Also, have I already said that Elon Musk is viciously stupid? It bears repeating. Bureaucracy is not a form of government. Democracy and bureaucracy are not in tension. Fascist states have bureaucracies, as we are finding out. So, unfortunately, we have to continue to listen to this malicious Nazi, because he has all of the power, and let us not kid ourselves otherwise. So despite railing against government waste, speaking of irony that is rich, Musk companies like SpaceX and Tesla have received at least $18 billion in federal contracts over the last decade, with SpaceX securing $17 billion since 2015. Musk's deflection when it comes to conflict of interest is appalling, but again, and I know I keep repeating myself, what does he care? He's going to get away with as much as he can, and then he'll push the envelope further to see if he can get away with more, which is actually something else that he and Donald have in common. While insisting that he won't personally benefit from federal contracts, which is hysterical, Musk sarcastically claimed that he expects constant scrutiny, saying, quote, "I fully expect to be scrutinized and get a daily proctology exam," basically, unquote. Multiple news reports from February 11th reported that access was just read-only. Court records revealed that Marco Elez, a 25-year-old staffer in Musk's Department of Governmental Efficiency, was mistakenly given read-write permissions to the Treasury's payment system, which disperses trillions of dollars annually. Treasury officials later corrected his access to read-only. Why does this post-pubescent child have any access at all, you might ask? Very good question. I wish I could answer it for you. Senator Ron Wyden, Democrat of Oregon, accused Musk and Doge of trying to manipulate the Treasury system to enforce a political agenda, rather than conducting a legitimate audit. Multiple lawsuits aim to block Doge's access to federal financial systems, citing concerns over illegal spending freezes on programs authorized by Congress. Good, but I mean, this is maybe obvious, but it's worth pointing out that this is not just about enforcing a political agenda. That would be bad enough, especially since the political agenda is a fascist one. It's also about an oligarchical takeover of the federal government with the sole purpose of enriching the very, very few at the expense of everybody else, and that includes all of us. The House Subcommittee on Delivering on Government Efficiency, they just cannot get enough of that stupid acronym, can they? Held its first hearing today. Woohoo. That was February 12th, this morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, focusing on Musk's role in reshaping the federal bureaucracy in the Trump regime. And I want to talk a little bit about who's fighting back here, because boy, oh boy, do we need people fighting back. Representative Melody Stansbury, a Democrat from New Mexico, directly challenged Musk to appear before Congress instead of engaging in political theater on social media, emphasizing the need for real transparency in his Department of Government Efficiency. Despite initial bipartisan agreement on reducing waste, the discussion quickly turned into a debate over Musk's authority and accountability, with Democrats questioning his influence and potential conflicts of interest. Can we stop saying things like potential? These are very real and documented conflicts of interest. The subcommittee chair, the execrable, what's her name, Republican from Georgia, a staunch MAGA ally, warned against partisan attacks. She knows whereof she speaks, and framed the hearing as an effort to protect taxpayers' money from government inefficiency. A group of Republicans are trying to save, even a group of Republicans are trying to save the USAID program because they know, one, how important the program is, and two, how bad it is going to be for some of their constituents if this program is scrapped, which I'm sorry to say it probably already has been. Republican lawmakers from farm states are introducing legislation to move the $1.8 billion Food for Peace program from USAID to the Department of Agriculture in order to ensure its continuation. In addition to the onslaught of protests against Musk and, on a more personal note, Grimes, mother of Elon. I don't like this. Sorry, I missed this part. Although it goes without saying, it's worth repeating. No one voted for Elon Musk, and people are starting to speak out. Protests are popping up all across the country against the Musk government takeover. About 30 protesters gathered outside a Tesla showroom in Manhattan to oppose Musk's role as head of Doge, accusing him of orchestrating an administrative coup. An accurate accusation. Protests began last week on February 6th in response to social media discussions asserting that, quote, no one voted for Elon Musk, unquote. Musk humorlessly, see, he's not funny. So I just thought my default is that he's humorless, but he tried to be humorous. In addressing the topic, he engaged with a post by Robert Sterling, who commented on the unelected nature of Musk's influence, and Musk replied, quote, yeah, well, I didn't vote for Joe Biden's non-binary deep state theater kids to get a blank check to give me my tax dollars to fringe left-wing NGO slush funds for 4 years, but that's exactly what happened, unquote. No, it's not. Calls for more protests against Musk's influence are ongoing. Organizers vowed to continue demonstrating against Musk and his policies, criticizing younger generations for not engaging in anti-Musk activism at the same level as other social movements. And I think that's true. We need all of these protests need to get bigger and more frequent, and eventually they need to become one massive, massive protest happening all over the country. So we're going to get there. In the meantime, we need to pay attention to everything that's going on. And, obviously, Elon Musk's son was there with him, and I think that's wildly inappropriate. So I don't want to comment too much on that. However, I would like to say that the only person acting age appropriately in that room was that child. Thanks for joining us today. Please do not forget to like and share this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks, and I'll see you soon. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.